everyone. I'm Pete Wright with LexJet, and I'm joined today by Chris Boyer and Ryan Brigman. They are partner business managers at HP, and they are joining me today to talk specifically about HP Latex printers, specifically when you're doing banner printing. Ryan, Chris, how are you doing today?
Not bad.
Doing great, Pete. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for jumping in. So, Chris, we're just going to jump right in. I'm going to start with you. Chris, when it comes to banner printing, is that still kind of a profitable area of printing? Where is that in terms of a business model?
Yeah, it's still a very profitable area of printing. It's still very popular for marketing communications. You find in many cases banner printing, it could be short run, it could be long run, it could be last minute. When it's last minute, it could command a premium. Utilizing a latex printer definitely gives you more options in terms of materials you can print on. But if you look at, marketing communication and what businesses are using these for, it could be new store openings, it could be for construction, it could be for events, it could be for festivals. It's almost limitless. So it is very popular and profitable application, even more profitable if you're able to offer installation services.
So, a lot of latex models out there from HP. When we're considering, okay, I've got the 630, I've got the 730, I've got the 830, I've got the R530, how do I decide which model is the best fit for me? What kind of separates those when we're looking at which model a customer should choose to incorporate into their business?
So a couple things. So things to look at is, application of the banner, the volume of banners that you want to print on. But in terms of technology differences, there are some major differences. So for example, the 630 does not have an ink collector. So if you wanted to print on a porous material like fabric or mesh without a liner, well, you can't do that with the 630. If you want to print on a 12 ounce, 14 ounce, 20 ounce banner, no problem with the 630 series. With the 730, 830, there is automated double-sided printing. So what that means is if somebody wanted to do a two-sided banner, you can automatically do that, not necessarily one pass, but the printer's going to tell you where to line up your media, where to flip it. So the automation is there for on the technology side. The 530 is a little bit different. We'd like to call that an all-in-one printer. It prints both rigid and flexible material, but at the same time, though, it has a vacuum zone with no ink collector. So having a vacuum zone, you don't want ink getting in there. So you can print on, most materials, but it has to be non-porous materials. So really it's based on application with that. If your primary application is banner, you have to make that decision. Am I going to be printing on, porous, non-porous? And do I need to be doing double-sided printing?
Yeah, I learn something new every time I talk with you guys because I've heard you talk about the double-sided printing before, but I'd never heard that it gives you the alignment and tells you where to put I mean, that's pretty cool that it's that automated. Because anytime I hear double-sided printing, I'm thinking, yeah, it can do it, but there's going to be some challenges. But it sounds like you guys have made that a pretty simple process.
Yeah, we did automate the process. Like on our previous generation, the 700, 800 series, that process was not there. And, based on, customer feedback, it's something that, a lot of customers asked for. So we incorporated that into when we just released our 730 and 830 series.
So when it comes to some small businesses or even larger ones, what business models do you see kind of being the best fit for each of these machines?
So the 630, as much as, that's kind of our entry level product, it's not an entry level product by any means. Primarily if somebody's shopping for a latex printer, one of the first questions we always ask is, application, volume, and that's going to really dictate, which printer is going to work best. So the 630, generally we're going to say if somebody's doing 4 rolls or less per month, perfect printer, even though we're saying it's entry level, it's not. Technically, all 3 of those printers have the same print quality. So even though you're buying an inexpensive model, you're not going to sacrifice quality. But the key thing with the 630, it comes bundled with the RIP, with Flexi. It's a full version Flexi that's in the box, so it's an all-in-one solution. The 730, 830 has, a little bit more automation like what we kind of spoke about with the double-sided printing. It has a built-in spectrophotometer. We do the 800 or the 830 series, I should say, it does have a bulk ink option, or that option comes standard. So that runs a 3-liter system. So what that really translates into is a lower operational cost. So if somebody's printing more than 5 rolls a month, typically that's the break-even point for the 830 series. Now in the 530 now, like we kind of mentioned before, that's our all-in-one printer. So if somebody wants to print rigid and roll, that's the product that they're going to really have the best fit for.
Now, I was going to ask this, and I'm like, well, it's not really something that's part of banner printing. Am I missing an area where that white ink option may come into play for banner printing?
Definitely, for sure. Because with banners, there is, there is other materials that are available. Like, so for example, a typical application you might see is like construction hoarding signage, where it's a solid black mesh and it's just printed with white. So very basic application. So typically, if somebody wanted to, print that application, they're going to have to print the black and on white mesh. In this case here, you can do that as a solid. And same thing with banner materials. There are different color, not there's not a huge range, but there are different ranges of banner colored materials that are available that you can utilize white for. So it's a bit of a niche application, but having white definitely opens up a few more doors for customers who have like a very basic requirement for call it mesh or call it solid color materials that they want to print.
Now, if they're printing on the black,
Mhm.
and obviously, if you're printing on black, you have to use white at this point. Can they do the layered printing where the white becomes a background and now they can put other colors on top of the white?
Absolutely, that's a good point. That's a very popular application where you can do what we refer to as underflood. So you underflood the black with white, then we can print all in one pass. So you're not refeeding the media through the printer. You can print, call it four color, right on top of that white. So if you wanted a solid black background with black mesh, as we're using as an example, you can print the white. Then you can print the color right on top of that.
So I guess that kind of answers my next question to an extent. What does HP Latex bring to the table? If I'm doing banners, but I'm like, you know what, I need to take my banner printing up another level. Let me look at new technology. What things, like what we just talked about, does HP Latex bring to the table that's going to take your banner printing to the next level?
So when you look at latex on banner material, Pete, there's a few main differences. When you look at ink technologies that exist today, there's UV, there's solvent, and there's latex. The main difference that latex brings to market is the fact that we can print on a wider range of materials. So for a print service provider, you're able to offer your customers the ability to print on fabric, which is unique to latex. If somebody wanted to print on traditional, PVC banner, you can do that. If you wanted to print on eco-friendly banners, I know you guys sell a wide range of eco-friendly materials. You can do that. You can print on mesh, or porous mesh with that ink collector kit that we discussed. So out of anything, it just opens up, and the white ink that we discussed as well. It opens up more creativity for the designer. It opens up more options for the end user in terms of what they can select for a banner. A banner just doesn't have to be a PVC banner. It could be, a fabric, a mesh, or even a pop-up if somebody wanted a pop-up banner printed on film.
Gotcha. Now, Ryan, I don't want to ignore you here because you're a wealth of information as well. So, talk to me a little bit about some of the features and capabilities in HP printers that will help them differentiate themselves from other printers in the market.
Yeah, that's a great question, and it is a competitive market. Banner printing tends to be that. So I think there's probably five main differentiators that give latex the edge. The first is what Chris has talked about a couple times is the wider range of materials that we can print on compared to other ink technologies. It really gives you versatility with all sorts of a big range of materials. The second really would be the white ink printing. That's something that we also talked about already, but it does give an advantage, especially when it comes to fence mesh, especially like black or colored mesh where they're printing a logo. You can do that in white, so that gives you an advantage. As well as automated double-sided printing. That's something that's really unique with the 730 and 830 series printers. The next one would probably be our eco-friendly water-based ink technology. Really, that does give an advantage for sustainability. You think about it, a lot of major brands have a sustainability mission. And so we help those brands and other customers to meet that, even down to recycling of our ink supplies. So with HP Planet Partners, we offer a free recycling service with all those cartridges. And then the final would probably be the lower or predictable operational cost of HP Latex. It really does give you a real price advantage in many cases.
Ryan, that's great. So, Chris, I want to jump back to you on one real quick. What are your go to medias for banner printing?
So on the media side, there's like many options that are available and many options that are, call it applicable to latex. on our side, there's the HP Prime line. I know you guys resell that. You guys sell the Ultraflex. And I've kind of turned that back to you, Pete, and asked the question on the LexJet side. I know you guys have lots of materials available. We typically we always reference our media locator to source applicable materials, but same time, we heavily rely on our partners to make suggestions as well on what you guys feel would be applicable to the customer.
Yeah, you're right. And I think it's really important that the customer actually, at the end of the day, calls in and talks to somebody that's going to help them, because the needs change based on the application, matching up the proper media, whether it's, for an outdoor use or an indoor use, how long it's there, what type of things it's going to be exposed to. So when we get into choosing the right media, there's a lot of options. What are the considerations for choosing the right media for the job?
No, good. Yeah, that's a really good question because in most cases, banners are kind of temporary application. But like my recommendation always is, ask the customer a couple questions about, longevity of the banner. Is it going to be reused? Where is it going to be placed? Weight, weather, is it going to be repurposed? And anything that's relevant and important to the client, especially if it's going to be reused, right? If it's going to be reused, then it's like, okay, we're going to have to use a higher quality material, right? Or maybe it's in a situation or in an installation where there's lots of wind. Okay, we're going to have to maybe look at something fabric or something that has passed through with wind. So there's a I would kind of push that back on the client and ask more questions. But also when you ask more questions, then it gives you the opportunity to upsell the client to maybe a higher quality material or even more banners. In many cases, maybe they just want one banner, but then you're looking at where the placement is going to be. And, in terms of their communication, it's maybe they're going to need multiple. I would always turn it back to the client. And, there's something that we always say internally, there's projects and jobs, and, you want to turn that job into a project, right? And maybe even offer installation services as well.
So, Chris, what are your best tips for maximizing speed to make sure that they're getting the quality they need in the production time they need for banners?
Okay, yeah. As an example, if we're just looking at like let's say an ultra flex banner, a 14 ounce or 20 ounce, typically banners are being viewed at from a distance, so it doesn't it has to be good quality, but not like quality where you're being viewed from like feet away, right? So typically on banner material, you're printing at a 4 pass normally. So what that really translates into is super low operational cost and higher speeds. So the greater the pass count, the higher the quality, the lesser the speed and higher the operational cost. And the opposite, if you're printing at a lower pass count, we're going to be able to maximize that speed. But still, considering it's going to be viewed at a distance like a billboard, you're not going to see any banding or anything that's going to really sacrifice quality.
Awesome. Now, Ryan, I want to come back to you for this one. How do HP latex printers help reduce waste, mistakes, and just unused materials? What are they doing to really make us a little bit more cost conscious in the way we print?
Yeah, reprints, mistakes, and waste can kill the profitability of any shop. So that's a super important thing to be concerned with. I remember from my background in the print shop, it's killed us. And so one of the things that's really good about HP Latex is the intelligence of the levels of supplies that we report, the media length. If you input that ahead of time, you know how much media you have, and so you really can manage that very well. If you're running an 730 or 830, the automated double-sided printing can be a real big advantage. You're really taking the guesswork out of two-sided banners because that sometimes can be a very hard thing to do and result in a lot of mistakes and errors. So if you have that automation, we eliminate that and can avoid a major error. We've also redesigned the platen. So many materials can be printed very close, like about 4 inches away from the pinch roller. So that does assist in that. And then, of course, looking at the onboard screen that we have, you can see a preview of what's coming, what the job's going to do. So you're much less likely to have an error because you see what's coming, and so you make sure you're not printing the incorrect job. And then, just as a good advice, operators should always double check, right, what they're doing prior to printing, and that's just a good practice to have.
Fantastic. Now, Chris, With all that in mind, what are some of the biggest profit opportunities for banner printing?
Yeah, in terms of profit opportunity, a few things. It's tough because if there's so many online print service providers that you're competing with, but when you look at online print service providers, they're shipping you a box. Then after that, you got to take that banner, you got to install it. There's not really a high level of service there. When you're dealing directly with the client, you have the opportunity to do a little bit of investigation. Okay, what's that banner being used for? Okay, obviously it's being used for marketing communication. What are you trying to achieve? Hey, can you show me the placement of the banner? Maybe there's additional banners that are required. Offer installation services. The other part too is upselling the client, because if at the end of it, when you look at what banners are used for, it's for communication. What are other options you can offer the client to help with that communication, right? Try to upsell the client, and I'm going to turn it back to the turning that job into a project. Most end customers really don't know the capacities and capabilities of I'll call it our print service providers, and maybe tie in some other signage. Maybe tie in like, hey, we know some vehicle graphics or building wraps or window films or something else that can increase that marketing communication. So if I was going to summarize it, chat with the client and upsell the client.
All right, so I go through, I have that chat. What do I do now to add that value and also increase my margin on the backside once I've got that customer locked in?
So when you're upselling, we can be upselling to premium materials. We can be upselling our installation services, and I would, just me be more of a consultant. Yeah, we're print service providers, but at the same time, we're kind of experts in what we do, and make suggestions to the client that why don't we consider putting additional banners here? Why don't we consider doing additional signage over here? And especially if you're dealing with a large organization or even SMB customers, everyone's really willing to listen because that signage is going to help give them an ROI for whatever they're communicating.
Last question, and Ryan, I'm going to come back to you on this one. I'm on the fence. I'm like right there on the edge trying to decide, man, should I buy this HP printer and get into the latex world or not? What's the one big thing that really makes them think, okay, I'm going to pull the trigger? What's that important factor that they should consider?
Yeah, the real big thing, or the one big thing I think to take away, is that HP Latex allows you to print on such a wide range of materials. You really think about it. We've been talking about banners. Banners is one of the applications, but you don't want to be a one trick pony. You want to be able to offer other applications. You want to be able to expand your business, grow your business into something else. And so we call those high value applications. So as you move beyond banners into more project based printing, you can do stuff like vehicle graphics, which HP Latex is phenomenal for that application. Think about backlit and frontlets. Those have, again, command a premium price. Chris talked about fabric a couple times. Fabric is a big growing industry. You see it all over the place, especially for trade show environments, SCG graphics. You see it all over the place. And fabric is definitely easy to ship and pack, and it makes a really good, it's very profitable too for many shops. Decals and stickers, that's a standard that you can do with our latex printers. Think about posters, even paper-based stuff. Reflective and traffic signage, that's something that you can do with HP Latex with warranty as well. And then window films using white ink for clear materials, like Chris mentioned, underflood, overflood. There's all kinds of different applications for that. So versatility, applications, that's really the big advantage that HP Latex has.
Yeah, I mean, it's just you've got this fleet of latex printers that just give you so many options as you move up and down. You can kind of you're not limited to one printer option. There's four there, and they have white ink options. And just depending on what you need, there's something there that's going to fit with you, whether it's price wise or application wise. So it's good to come in and have choices. And it's always great being able to hop on with you guys and discuss those choices just to make it clear to everybody. Chris, Ryan, thanks so much for joining me today.
You're
Thanks, Pete.
welcome.
And thank all of you for jumping on and watching with us. If you have any questions about how HP Latex might be the right fit for you and helping add banners to your business model, reach out to us at 800 4 LexJet. And for all of your printer and supply needs, check us out at lexjet.com.